supervise the planting, if there was, she could send over a group of 9 students and a teacher from 9 a.m. to noon if we wanted to get a jump on the planting. Now, I don't know that that's going to work because we've had this carefully orchestrated series of events with Dave Hilbert and Public Works, prepping the spots, digcrete, augering the holes and whatnot. And I don't know that it will work to have students there on Wednesday, but she's made this fabulous offer. And, I got back to her and I said, this is an intriguing idea. I don't think it's going to work for that day for us. And now that I'm rereading it, I'm thinking, but is there something else they could do? And she said this group has volunteered at the Willows, the Haverford Reserve, and they get great reviews. So I wondered, would we like to pass this on to Trails and Greenways? Like maybe they could use the students to do cleanup work along one of the trails. Or maybe George would like to use them to do tree maintenance, like in Gable Park. You've got all those trees that are overgrown there.
Yeah.
So even though I don't think we can use them that morning, I wanted to pass it along to maybe other groups. And then just say, keep this in mind for the future, that if we have projects, now we know that they apparently have these half-day service days periodically.
I don't know for October 16th, if anyone here could facilitate that type of a program, anybody? Because I think would be great. It's first of all, it's very generous of them, so we should be grateful for that. Should we try to reach out to George and to Wade Pollock to see if Parks and Rec, and maybe if not,
I probably could actually that
Yeah.
morning.
Oh, you could do it the 16th,
Yeah.
and maybe we could
Like something at Gable Park, maybe.
Gable
Yeah.
or Drexel Lodge Park, removing some invasives, vines, but we'd have to clear that with Wade and George.
Yeah, and you would need someone there to provide you guidance, so you can provide them guidance.
Yeah.
Because they always have questions, what to do, cut, pull, something like that.
And
Okay.
roughly how many students?
She said 9 students
students.
and a faculty member for 3 hours. Yeah,
A
so,
lot of time.
Yes,
yeah. Okay, so I'll keep that in mind and I'll start making inquiries.
That's
And-
great.
Yeah, if we
I'll put
could-
this on my calendar.
George and Wade, and then Janet, will you be available that morning?
I
Wait
haven't
for
checked my
Parks and Rec
calendar.
or Trails at Gable.
Wade for Parks and Rec if it's a park. If any, or you're
Okay.
doing, whatever,
Gable,
yeah,
okay.
it's a park, whatever, whatever,
Okay.
you know.
Okay,
And just to make sure
Okay.
it was, and Janet, I'm just trying to think of, Dave will be able to be there. I am not sure at this point. I'm getting back at like late. So,
Okay. well, we'll see.
yeah, but I don't want to not be grateful for the opportunity that
Yeah.
there's, so I want to see if we can provide some type of, even if there's removing invasive vines, because Drexel Lodge has them, I think we should check in with George what priorities he has too,
Okay,
because he
Okay.
would know best.
Okay.
All right, perfect. All right, so then we were talking about community outreach for the 21st. One thing which we will be, we were just asked to add, and we'll add this to our October thing, is we were just invited to the Newtown Square Community Fun Day, which will be in October. So we'll add that to our October calendar and agenda to make you aware of it. But Janet and I are so far booked for it, and anyone else, please let me know if you're interested. All right, so item number 10.4, selection on the EAC content for October newsletter. So we've got one idea for the pumpkin collection. That'll definitely be a October e-newsletter item. Janet, anything else that you would like to have added for our content for e-newsletter for October?
I don't have a topic yet.
Okay,
did we do did we do
Leave
leave
the
the
leaves?
leaves last month?
we
Yeah.
did leave the
Yes.
leaves, and that was a great program, and actually was really good.
Cindy, you and I talked about how we would concentrate on birds in October.
Okay,
Um,
From what angle?
Well, I know we've done lights out.
Yeah,
and-
because lights out is gonna be in this one, lights
Yeah.
out and
Yes.
leave the leaf.
Right.
Well, what I think that we really have to hit on salt management when we get into the winter, and snow and salt management. And we could either,
do you want salt management for October, or do you want to say that for November?
yeah, I think we should say
Okay.
that for November.
Okay,
Um,
I don't know if there's anything we can do about window collisions specifically. To highlight, that a billion birds die from colliding with windows.
How about there's some information on, do you want to take a lead on, the dots or that?
The window
The
decals.
window decals.
The feather
Yeah.
press.
You want to try that?
We have a roving banner that I have from Birdtown, which we hope to put perhaps in the library or here, make a demonstration with it.
Okay.
It's a 6-foot banner, which highlights what happens with bird strikes and how to mitigate it. So let me see if there's something we can put
Great.
together.
Any other things for, I'd like to have, 1 or 2 more. We're obviously going to have sustainable Newtown Square green business.
I also wanted to, that this will come out a few days before the,
This will drop
Goshen-
October 17th.
right, so it'll come out a
You
few
need it
days.
early.
What?
She needs it early.
Right.
Right, but it will come out a few days before the Goshen Trail planting. So to me, that's one last chance
Okay.
to promote that, and we could always piggyback with it. That fall is a great time to plant trees, and why not plant a tree?
Perfect. Right. Since Cindy's going to be removing some invasives, and we did an article 2 months on invasive. Anybody, does that think would be helpful to kind of discuss why burning red bush and all those other ones are invasive? Do we want to go into further detail on that, or is there some other topic that would be appropriate for this time of year? Anything you're thinking of, Joe? By the way, the article for the school was phenomenal. I thought that was really good.
Halloween.
Yeah,
What can we do from an environmental perspective?
Halloween would be a great idea. So
Already
how can
talked
you
about
be
pumpkin collection, so.
yes,
You know what they should not,
Sustainable decoration.
sustainable decorations? Awesome.
Pick up your candy wrappers.
Maybe not having mums, but other alternatives. That's a great idea, buddy.
also, don't put all those fake cobwebs
there you
all
go,
over the
webs.
place. Birds get
birds.
stuck in them.
Okay,
There you
so
go.
Joe, are you doing it on Halloween? Joe is doing Halloween. Woohoo!
And pumpkin composting.
You're doing, we got
I-
pumpkin, that's a separate one. We
I
got
can,
pumpkin
yeah,
collection.
I'll do the pumpkin one.
Joe's got Halloween.
About pumpkin composting and just the general
So basically,
benefits of.
how can we be
pumpkins
sustainable
to-
and enjoy the holidays
Wow.
and focus on maybe Halloween and Thanksgiving, like from everything we purchase, bringing our bags when we're purchasing, not putting out the netting, as you said, for the things, not using plastic materials for trick or treating. How can you be sustainable or reusable, or maybe you go to thrift shops or, things of that nature, just to break our mindsets. A good one. I like that one, Joe. Halloween piece. All right. And even maybe, what we give out to the trick or treaters.
Not candy.
I'll give them something, maybe give them, something that's, they enjoy. All right. And that's, if anyone has, I would like one more idea, but we can discuss that later. Okay, item number 11, old business. Update on discussion of the possible action to further support sustainable Newtown Square Green Business Coalition. Dane just gave us the brief thing and, the sustainable Newtown Square commercial about what Newtown Square does in its sustainability efforts, and it's fabulous. And Suzanne is in it, and Steve Neese, and of course Leonard. So we have 3 stars, but it's really nice. As soon as they approve it, we'll be able to send it out. But it's great because it shows some of the things that Township initiative, it highlights the program. So I'm really looking forward to that.
So what is that? We're gonna get the link? You're gonna
As soon
share-
as the supervisors approve it and
Okay.
the Township approves it, we'll send out the link, and that'll be shared off with that. We are still on target for March of 2025. Dunwoody is sending us the dates. As soon as we get those dates, Monica thought she'd have them by today, but she didn't. So as soon as she does get me the dates, we will clear everyone's calendar. Item number 11.12, Birdtown, update on our bird walks and Birdtown events.
Okay.
Janet, take it away.
Yes, right. So our bird walk is scheduled for Garrett Williamson on October the 12th. It'll be led by Mike McGraw, who always
It's
is
fabulous.
fascinating. And also Phil Whitmer, who is the vice
Fabulous.
chair of Birdtown. And Georgine, who is now the one that we correspond with, says that we should just make this an annual thing, so.
Oh, it is, yeah, it's been
I
annual,
don't
it's
have to
been
worry
awesome.
about asking them. This coming Wednesday, September the 25th, Newtown Square will be joining a cluster of bird towns from Delaware, Chester, and some in Montgomery County. These are all within the Valley Forge Audubon Society territory. There are 23 townships in this area. And our closest neighbors, Media, Middletown, Springfield, Nether Province, Swarthmore, are part of these. So we're going to be meeting at Willistown Conservation Trust. We're going to be doing a banding for the first hour. They
Awesome.
invited us to do a private banding. And then we will be meeting for about an hour and a half in their conservation room and talk about how we can organize some activities together. That will include this banner that we have about bird strikes that we can pass around from one community to another.
Wonderful.
So I'm really
Well,
looking forward to that.
That's in the evening, you said? What time?
No, it's 8 in the morning.
Eight in the morning.
Yes, right. 8 to 9 will be bird banding, and then we will meet in their big room. And I also wanted to encourage everyone on the day that we're going to go
Do your walk?
see, now we're going to be able to clap for Cindy when she wins her award.
Oh.
That we go to Media for their Eco Fest, which I think they're going to have 30 different representatives from various.
DCNR, DC, like everyone, that's awesome.
Yes, right. So that's from 10 until 2. So I'm helping set up a Birdtown table there for that, but I will leave and go over to Smidley, which isn't far from.
That's awesome.
Media. So there's a lot going on and.
Good stuff.
happy about that.
And we do have the Lights Out program. Suzanne, if you could share that flyer, it's attached there. Great find on that article, Joe, that you sent out to everyone. And
Oh,
I
yes.
did send that into the township, and hopefully they'll be able to share that off, because that's a really good that CBS article. It highlights the concern as why Lights Out is helpful, and the concern about bird strikes. So that was really good. All right, item 11.3, the update on the discussion regarding shade tree and EAC street tree program giveaway. The program is doing really well. EAC has been working with Shade Tree. We identified areas of concern along Fox's Run. So we specifically targeted Winding Way and Beechwood. And because we had a couple extra trees over, we started just a portion of Ashley. 39 trees have been reserved, and we're in the process of the residents paying their $40 or just paying $40 to contribute for the cost of the gator bag and the mulch. The holes will be pre-dug on November 8th. I have flags that I will be going out to each property after they have paid, and they will actually mark where they're going to be putting, where they would like their tree. Mara will be talking with Bob. They'll be securing the call in advance utility lines to make sure they're marked. Utilities companies will come out to mark their lines before they dig. Hole will be done on the 8th, and the neighborhood community tree planting should be on November 9th. So it'll really be an exciting day. Great kudos to the township supervisors for supporting that. This is funded by both EAC and Shade Tree, and we're hoping to make this program. Our target next year is Ashley and Brookside. So we're really looking forward to it, and tremendous community interest. Everyone was thrilled with this, and so we're really looking forward to that.
What species? Trees.
Actually, the Shade Tree Commission chose them, and there's 5 different species. They've given a native dogwood. They have an oak, a sycamore, a maple, and a birch. So they're the ones, actually Rob Van Nicola is organizing that. And his numbers came in a little, actually, we were roughly expecting about 7,500 ever. Came in, I think about 7,000, and he got $1,500 in free delivery. So we're thrilled. So they're the ones selecting the trees. We kind of had to defer to them, let them make that decision. So great news.
Scott Arboretum yesterday had their noon lunch virtual tour,
Okay.
and it was all about the oaks at the Scott Arboretum. And so they really did highlight the ones that are good for street trees. I was surprised to hear that swamp oak are really good, tolerant of salt conditions.
Oh, good.
Right, yeah, so I think it's on YouTube and anyone could pick it up.
Oh, And we did notice a lot of the residents got to choose their own tree.
Uh-huh.
And I know a lot of people chose the smaller trees. I think that was kind of just because of the option, you know, they know a dogwood, maybe they don't know what a sycamore or an oak they think would be too big. So maybe we can, you know, encourage EAC and shade tree next year when this program heads to encourage them to use more oaks or and specifically because swamp oak was not one of the options. So, great. All right, item number 11.4, the EAC We Conserve Regional Gathering. Thanks to Desiree in the township, Janet and Cindy have secured their attendance at the campus. I know, Joe, you're not able to. Dave, you were gonna let me know.
Yeah, I don't think I'm.
No
going
worries.
to be able
All right,
to.
so they will come back and attend it. And good luck with that, ladies, and let us know how that works out. And we'd love to hear an update on that. Also, item 11.5. Before we get into this is the discussion of possible action on the riparian buffer wetlands draft ordinance submitted by the township solicitor for consideration. I don't know if anyone knows, but last week the supervisors delivered 3 big wins for us. And I think it's a moment that we work really hard and I'm thrilled to hear that we have a 100-foot riparian buffer, which is not yet. It's on the ordinance. It's in there. It's in the ordinance.
It's proposed.
It's
It has
proposed,
not been
but-
voted on yet.
But we have the support of the supervisor, so that is a big thing. I know also the supervisors made comment about which the EAC, even though it's a tree, we've been really encouraging the medium strip and their proposed 220 trees and the evergreen plantings along West Chester Pike, which is phenomenal. And I think the supervisors have been spot on with that and we're really thrilled. And most importantly is one of those things that's necessary. Nobody sees the benefit of it except for those who are impacted by it, but it's the stormwater up at Upper St. Albans. And I really am delighted that they have acted and taken appropriate action on that. So that's a really good thing. So before we get into the ordinance, Cindy, any comments that you have on chapter 143?
Yes. A little bit of background on this, I think, is helpful. And the township, because it holds an MS4 permit for water quality. And what does MS4 stand for again?
You're not asking me.
It's the
It's a-
4 S's. It's 4 S's.
Separate storm sewer system,
System or
something. Anyhow, the state DEP periodically updates what is known as Act 167. And then comes up with a model ordinance for all MS4 permit holders statewide and pushes this down. So this process has been unfolding and that model ordinance went from the state to the county and then came to our township and all other townships that have MS4 permits. So this is something that was required. This is not something that was optional, that we review, our township review the model ordinance and bring our ordinance into compliance. And that model ordinance did call for a 100-foot riparian buffer, which is something, as Sheila said, we've been advocating for years, and which the township even noted as an aspiration in its comprehensive plan, which was released a few years ago. Before I make any more comments, I'd like to understand from Andy what the timing is on this. Because I tried to find out this afternoon in terms of the process, because as Sheila said, at the last Board of Supervisors meeting, the supervisors voted to put a version of this out to advertise it.
Yes.
Which means to put it out for public comment.
Right.
So my next question is, how long is this public comment period? How long do we have to make comment and how long does the public or anyone else have?
I think comments, as long as they don't make a substantial change to the ordinance, substantial change is a legal term.
Right.
That would have to be determined by the solicitor. As long as there's not a substantial change and there's, I'll call minor change to the language, I think it can move very quick. It can be advertised, it's been approved for advertising,
Yes,
so they can advertise it as it was presented to the board
Yes.
at the last meeting. As long as there's not a substantial change and there's not any major comments that come back that will change that, alter that substantially, then the board can approve it at the next meeting.
which
I-
is.
they would
There
need
are
30
comments that
days.
come
Yes,
in.
Yeah, there's 30
No,
days.
but I-
Sorry.
I
30
believe
days for
that
public
it's
review.
30 days for public comment. I believe there's 30 days, once it's advertised for public comment, and I
And-
believe, right, and I believe it won't go before the supervisors because they don't meet till, I think, October 13th, I believe is the date, or, let me check that.
See, that's my question.
They have
How
30 days.
long is the advertised ordinance available for public comment? If it's 30 days, when
I
did the
don't know
30
that I
days
have
start?
that.
When did it end? And when will the board vote?
I don't know that, I think that once it's advertised,
Is your,
then the board can act on
right, and I
it,
believe,
legally advertised.
right, and
So,
they did discuss it on September 9th, and it was approved to be published. And so the next time I believe the supervisors will be meeting is October 14th. So that's well within the 30, it's after the 30 days.
so, yes, once, it has, we have to make sure that we know what the date it was.
It was
put in the
published.
paper.
Yes,
I think that's the trick.
And who would know that?
they probably the solicitor.
I don't handle that posting, that
Okay.
advertisement, so
Yeah,
I don't
I
know
thought
if
Steve-
that, I don't know if
Yeah,
that is,
Well, I'll ask
or
Suzanne.
who's handling that through his office. I just don't know that answer.
Right. I guess where we look at is, we can dig into it tonight and have any comments that we can provide that are constructive, that will be helpful. I know there was one issue that we had asked for, and I know that this, since this is stormwater, maybe this wasn't the ordinance where this would fit, but our specific concern was it had to do with the area of a wetland study. So the wetland study that we had following best management practices, after 5 years, a wetland study is considered past its shelf life. It's no longer, because wetlands are not static. So an issue came up before with the one particular applicant where they were using an old wetlands that was out of date, and the new engineer had agreed with that instead of getting a new wetland study. And it was too past, the time to be even considered appropriate. What we were looking at is from an EAC perspective, to make sure that that issue was dealt with and we could deal with it, is to quantify what is, a wetland study, and to say, let's follow best management practices of 5 years and have that in whatever ordinance. So we didn't know if this was the correct ordinance to have it considered.
Well, I believe this would be the
Right.
correct ordinance. Put that in. I don't know, I can't speak to the actual way that's worded in the current ordinance. I don't have it in
Right.
front of me. And we don't have it.
Yes, it is actually, it's added up. Yeah, the ordinance was sent, and each EAC.
So
member
was
had
there a
it.
specific section that you were referring to?
No, it's,
Simply in the definition.
I think in the definitions, probably, because the definitions, it does refer to wetlands, it does refer to bodies of water, it does refer to fens, bogs, all of the bodies of
So
water.
let me ask you, what's your suggested
I
change?
think
Is it to
just a-
add a specific time frame in which a wetland study is valid?
Yes,
I can share that with Mr. Stewart.
yeah,
And he can add that to, and he can decide whether or not that's
Right.
a substantial change before he submits it for advertising.
right,
And it's important to note that Sheila bringing this up, this is guidance that she received from external experts who advised her that this is best practice in the field, is that wetland studies are no good after 5 years. They need to be updated.
Right.
So it's not just us saying this.
Yeah.
This is
No.
something we've
That's
heard,
the whole
yeah.
point. Get it in the ordinance. so
Yes.
it's enforced.
so it's, yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
So, we're done with that. Something else I noticed, and this is on page 44 and 45 of the ordinance as advertised under 143-311B. It, A talks about the applicant, and the previous version used the word landowner, so I don't know if that's an important difference. Shall create a repairing buffer extending a minimum of 100 feet, which is fabulous. However, if you go right on to the next section, there appears to be
this section, please?
311.
143-311. On page 44.
These pages aren't, that's one.
Yeah, and I
Yeah.
think you might be using the PDF and she might be
It's way
using.
down.
No, I'm using the PDF.
Page 55 to 60.
Page.
No, no, that's what I'm saying, just keep going pretty far
Way
down.
It's more than halfway through.
You're 3.7.
You're
yep,
307.
You're 3.8. Wait, now you're 3.09, yeah.
There's
Here you go.
311.
3.11, there you go.
Okay, yeah, 143-311. So I'm looking at B, and I did, in the little time we had, I did a quick comparison of this new ordinance with previous ordinance. And the language under B is exactly the same. And and it does apparently align with the model ordinance that came from the county. But to me, while it's wonderful that the minimum riparian buffer for a new development, as I understand it, is 100 feet, the protections on existing property don't get any better. So if you look at B1, it says the following provisions also apply to riparian buffers on lots in existence at the time of this chapter. So I'm trying to understand what that means. To me, it means any riparian buffer that's already property that's already there. And then if you go and look at A and B, it says if the applicable rear or side yard setback is less than 100 feet, the buffer width may be reduced to 25% of the setback or 25 feet, which is ever greater. And then B, if a stream traverses a site in a manner that significantly reduces the use of the site, the buffer may either be reduced to 25 feet or 10 feet. And I just, to me, this is like a big loophole that
Well, they're saying,
applicants,
yeah.
applicants can come
When I
through.
read that, because that was the primary section I focused on reading before I came into the meeting. I
Right.
didn't read the whole ordinance,
Right.
Yeah,
because I just got it this afternoon, so
Yeah.
to be perfectly honest with you, so that was the section, and I knew that that was gonna be a concern of yours.
Right.
So all I would suggest to you this evening is come up with either a specific question. As you said, what does that mean as far as existing lots, or what was the term that you were concerned with? At the adoption of this chapter, right? You were focusing your first concern on subsection 1. So I would just formalize those into questions.
Right.
And we can share that with the solicitor who can
And clarify.
either modify it and before it's advertised. Or he can maybe, if he had to, take it back to the.
And that only becomes an issue if an applicant comes before the zoning or planning with maybe trying to put a shed up or something on their property. That wouldn't be, because in essence, it's a grandfathered condition, correct? If you're not touching anything and
Well,
changing
it's
anything,
speaking to lots in existence
Yes.
at the time of adoption.
okay,
So I don't think it's applicable to lots that may go through a future subdivision.
Okay.
Or like development.
right, but like Sheila said, people that want to put a shed, people that want to put a deck, people that want to add a pool, people that want to do this, that, or the other thing.
Potentially, they could get it as written.
Yes,
They could have a waiver
they could get down to a
Right.
10-foot riparian buffer.
Correct.
And I
as
just,
it's written today.
yeah,
that's it.
and to me, this just really leaves a lot of,
So what we have to do is provide them with the tools to strengthen it, to make sure that we address any
Okay.
areas of concern. But we also have to understand in that particular situation, if their backyard is only 100 foot, what he's saying is it has to
Right.
make, you have to be able to allow them some use. So what you could do is make such suggestions. We could come back and say, maybe you have a
Right,
bioswale.
criteria.
Yeah, you
that
could,
Grant, there would be some basis for an exception of that 100-foot
Right.
buffer.
and we can make recommendations to zoning, let's say, in a condition when somebody's asking for a variance in that, maybe that they
Well,
include.
this section is not in zoning.
No, I mean, we could like encourage, when they go before zoning or planning, we could encourage the applicant, if they're asking for an extenuating circumstances, and I'm assuming majority of people have a yard more than 100 feet, but I'm not sure, there's some properties. We could give them suggestions of what they could do, maybe a bioswale, maybe
But I
infiltration
think the
traps.
point of an ordinance is
Is
to
to
create
clarify.
criteria and basis for people to rely on.
Right. I think
So-
Cindy's concern is that
so-
there is a lot of loopholes in that one. Right.
Understood. So
But like you said, this ordinance is not a. This is not a matter that would go before zoning. This is something that would go before
Right.
planning.
Right.
So I
Okay.
believe the stormwater ordinance is only appealable. So if the township engineer, when he reviewed a plan for something like a shed, and I would certainly, if that comes in, that's obviously a zoning matter. If I saw that there was impact to the riparian buffer, I would then share that permit application with the township engineer to evaluate it under this ordinance, which is not zoning. And then if he determined that they were in conflict with the ordinance, the applicant would then appeal it to the board of supervisors. I believe at the end of the ordinance, at the end of every ordinance, there's usually an appeal section. And I believe that this ordinance is appealable only to the board.
If
Yes.
I may, I do have information. But there is no 30-day waiting period. I
Okay.
stand corrected. There were changes, additional changes made by the board.
Okay.
You can submit the comments to myself. This will be advertised for the first, excuse me, in October, the first board meeting in October.
Which is October 14th?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so that's very helpful, Suzanne. So you're saying that the board of supervisors has already made, I want to make sure I'm looking at the most current thing.
I don't know that that is what this is.
This is
I
the
was
most
just-
current draft.
Right.
But is it the one that has the changes that she just?
I don't know that.
I don't think we'll get those.
But the,
Why would we
and
not
that
get those?
probably
Because we can
happened after
have
they reviewed it.
Oh, here.
The comments have to happen before this meeting, so.
Yes.
It can be circulated to the
Right.
readers.
So I was in a meeting with this Mr. Square earlier this afternoon, and he and the township engineer were making some
Minor
changes to
details, yeah.
definitions during that meeting. So I do think that this is your opportunity.
Right.
To offer any other suggested amendments to it, so we can get that before.
And this is our only opportunity for all of us to be together and speak.
Okay.
So if there's anything else, Dave or Joe, that you want to add to this ordinance, because we won't have a chance, but this letter will be due to them. I did like,
I think Cindy's concerns are valid. It's gonna, I think it's a little bit difficult to capture with more specificity what we're trying to say, just because of size of lots varying to such a great degree. So I think we're gonna have to continue conversation and maybe seek some other information on how maybe
Yeah.
other people have done that, or other towns have done this, because
Yeah, what I would do following this meeting, if we're all in concurrence that we would like to see this tightened. The We Can Serve PA website has a rich repository of model ordinances. I could go in and look at, see how they've handled this and get
Yeah.
some suggestions.
yeah, I think that would be helpful, just because if someone has a tiny backyard and they want to put a deck in on their house, right? That's,
Yeah.
you know, that can,
Well, I think that's why, if you look at B1A, it talks about the buffer width is reduced to, they express it as a percentage of
Right.
the setback, which I don't really understand what a setback is.
that's the distance from the road. You know, what they're saying is, what
or
is the,
would be the distance from the
from-
buffer.
Yeah.
Yeah, right?
Setback from the road or
They have
from the
set
back of the
they
property?
have different
I
setbacks.
believe it's referring to the setback required by zoning
Yes,
But a setback of what from what?
from the property line. Setback, buffer width, may be reduced 5%. Setback,
I understand what a setback is in concept, but are they talking about like the setback from the stream or from the side of the property?
I think the setback that he's referring to is the setback established by zoning for the building envelope.
right. What we
Which
could do
means,
is,
wait a minute, which means, so the setback from the building envelope,
For example, let's say in the
Can't build.
R1 district, you have a 75-foot required setback in the front yard to establish the building, the yard from the right of way to the nearest portion of a building. 75 feet. The side yards, I'm just gonna use numbers,
Okay.
but are 40 feet on either side with an aggregate of 85. And then a rear yard of 60 or 70. So
Okay.
in that case, the rear yard setback would be less than 100 feet.
So let's
So
say
that,
that,
this would be applicable in that condition.
so let's say the rear yard setback is 60 feet. And we using this formula, 25% of 60,
15
In-
feet.
15 feet. So the buffer width could be reduced to 15 feet. Which would be,
That's how I understand.
Yeah.
That's how I understand it based on the language.
Up our concerns and let's ask for
Or-
clarification
or
because we're not
25
lawyers here. And I think the lawyer, we have to be
Makes
very
sense.
careful because we can express what our issue is and let the lawyer deal with the legal terminology. But we can express our concern to making sure that we provide a riparian buffer. And ultimately, the purpose of the riparian buffer
Yeah,
is very
yeah.
important. And we want to understand it. But we do have to understand some areas of Newtown Square have non-conforming lots. And these particular areas like Florida Park have these issues that are,
Yeah, conforming lot.
right.
And this would still be applicable.
Right, so we'll bring that up and any other concerns.
okay,
Camilla?
I
what,
think it's more important to establish criteria in order to get the reduction and to maintain a level of protection for the repair, which is ultimately the goal.
Right,
so establish criteria that the applicant has to provide to get the waiver?
Yeah, and I do think it references the local BMP, the PA BMP map. So I think that is the criteria,
okay,
but I don't know enough about that manual to speak to it this evening.
yeah, there was
Okay.
a, Suzanne had a comment, yes, Suzanne.
This stormwater ordinance did come from DEP.
Yes.
And the increase in the amounts were per the comprehensive.
Yes,
Yes.
yes, that's, we are grateful for that, yes.
One last question, Andy. Under little numbers 1 and 2, what's the difference? One mentions municipal approval and the other mentions municipal waiver. What's the difference?
Well, I think the municipal approval is just an appearance before the board.
Board,
I think a waiver is an official action.
Action. Right, like a hearing, hearing again.
but either one would be granted by the Board of Supervisors.
The way I read that, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
What I did like about this plan is not only do they, they're asking you to reinvent how you really consider stormwater. And so they wanted to structure a non-structural stormwater management and best management practices. So this really isn't just about riparian buffers, but they're saying bioretention, filter strips, underground treatment systems, infiltration facilities, wet ponds, permeable paving, grass swales, riparian buffers, sand filters, detention basins, infiltration structure, French drains, seepage pits, and seepage trenches. The reason being is a lot of times residents come before zoning and things, and they have a situation where their impervious surface is expanding. We're gonna have tonight a few properties that are in the same boat. But we can give them alternatives. So if they have a situation where, we can offer them
Yeah,
something.
the ordinance wasn't, I mean, there wasn't a whole lot of significant changes in
Yes.
regard to stormwater management.
Yes,
It was kind of like, it was easier to say we were reinventing the whole ordinance when essentially we were just changing
Right.
parts of it.
but
But it was advertised as the
Right,
whole ordinance.
But what they're saying is instead of having infiltration beds and all this stuff, they're saying there's a way to have low impact designed to allow the water to penetrate through the natural process of hydrology. Instead of it, they're saying you can do it on your property and it doesn't have to be this major production. We
Right,
just
and
need to
there's
be creative.
criteria built
Right.
into the ordinance that speaks to threshold.
Yes,
And then we have two different thresholds, simplified approach, when an individual is adding less than 1,000, more than 500, but less than 1,000 square feet of new impervious or altered impervious. And then it goes into a fully engineered design when you exceed that threshold of 1,000 square feet.
there was an issue, I don't know if anyone saw that, about the decks and the pools. So the question is, and I heard the supervisors mention that, but right now, what is the temperature for you? Did you think about, they're saying that decks and pools should not be considered impervious surface?
That was more of a clarification of what the existing procedure.
Okay,
So it was really to better define it in the ordinance, not really to change what we already do.
okay,
So decks, pools, the surface water of the pool for
Collect the water.
stormwater purposes is not considered impervious.
Right.
Because as I understand it, it has a holding capacity.
Yes,
Just like a basin. So there's a credit given to the individual or the property owner when they're installing a pool. The apron of the pool and everything else around the pool that's impervious material, obviously.
is considered, right?
Decks, we never have considered decks impervious because they allow the water to run through as long as it's a deck. And there's nothing that would prevent the water from reaching the ground. So the water today will hit your deck, go through each gap at 5.5 inches or
Right.
whatever your deck boards are. So we don't consider decks impervious unless you have an impervious material below the deck or you have it covered with a roof.
That's what I saw. I read different points of view on that, that saying that previously the decks that you would be able, which would be considered the old wood or those, but because materials of decks have changed, they are no longer absorbing the water. And although there is some water that goes through the gaps, that's something to be considered. So I just read different research on that. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the ordinance revisions that were made, I mean, we did talk about this in the meeting earlier too, that it was really just to better define what was and what was not considered impervious.
Anything else? Cindy, Joan?
Yeah.
All right,
Good.
great. So we will draft that letter, Cindy. You will draft the letter and then we'll send that off to, so we send that to you,
Well,
Amy, or to Rich, or to both of you? With our
Well, I
concern.
mean, if you want to prepare your questions or comments in addition to what is presented, I would send it, you can send it to, I guess in this case.
Suzanne.
Said me.
Right, we'll send it to you.
Yeah.
Suzanne, lucky you. So, anyone else have, if you come with any additional thoughts or when you get a chance to really dig deeper into this thing, if you want to reach out to Cindy, maybe over this weekend and maybe by Monday, we can sit down a final draft and everyone will vote and approve on the letter. And I get what it is Andy, we're appreciative.
I understood it. You have two primary concerns, the timeframe on which a wetland study is valid,
Yes,
and then also some comments regarding 311B in
yes,
that area.
yes.
I mean, obviously, you're not limited to that, but that was.
I think they're the major issues, just clarification, because we want to have the 100-foot riparian buffer. We understand there's extenuating circumstances, but we want to make sure that whenever possible, that buffer is there. And we also want to educate the community as to what the riparian buffer is and why we need that. It's not just about, trying to be difficult, but there's a reason why, so. And maybe we can make that as part of our November newsletter, what is riparian buffer and help explain it to the community to make them aware. That would be a good idea.
Yeah, I think it would be important to explain the new ordinance to the, not only us and how we need to consider it going forward when we review development plans, but also to the public. I actually watched a presentation by the Ferguson Township engineer. They adopted their ordinance in August and, he did a very nice job of the engineer, not the attorney, of summarizing what were the key changes in the ordinance. And he presented that to the Board of Supervisors. And I thought something like that would be helpful for, the Board of Supervisors, something customized to us to help us know how to apply this going forward. And then I think the public needs to be educated about this.
I think we'll have an opportunity to weigh in and we'll get that to Suzanne. And as long as EAC members are all had an opportunity to give input, we've already voted to have Cindy draft a letter and then we'll all vote on the individual letter. If you guys have any additional information, we can add that up. Before we get,
We still have a print copy that goes out from the township. That complete one.
of the ordinance,
No, just, the newsletter, a newsletter. A print copy.
oh, no, everything is through the e-newsletter.
Or
Nope.
it's all electronic.
Everything is electronic from the township. We do have an opportunity when there is something that we can share, we can send it to friends and family. That they've been really helpful and we can do that if you need to. Before we get into things, let's go into public comment. Any public comment on any items?
Finally.
Francine, thank you so much. Okay, give your name and address and please make sure your green light is on. Thank you.
I'm Francie Strathman, 3840 Gradyville Road. And I just wrote this, I just wanted to express my concerns about the riparian buffers in line with what Cindy was talking about. And the line that is there, I wrote it down here, that if they're allowed to be reduced, if it reduces the use of the site. And that concerns me, maybe not with small homes, but large developments. And if there's a stream coming through and developer says, well, if I do that, then it changes how I can use the site. And that really concerns me with some of the upcoming large land developments that I'm aware of.
Thank
And
you.
I'm delighted about the 100.
Also, one thing about that ordinance, I don't know if you guys saw that, they specifically mentioned the impact of like a wildlife corridor in there. So I thought that was really impressive because that's the first time that was really mentioned in the ordinance. And we've been advocating for a wildlife corridor, so that was really important. All right, before we adjourn, our next meeting will be on Thursday, September 17th at 5 p.m. Oh, God, October. I'm going on holiday and I am in holiday mood. So yes, October. Yes. Cindy, before anything else you want to give before I was giving these up, if you want to wait or if I can.
Yeah.
EAC agenda items will be due on September 28th. I know that sounds like a long way, but I will be away and I need to have it unless somebody would like to volunteer to do the agenda for October. If not, I'll need it by September 28th at 8
I think
a.m.
you're so good at making the agenda that all of us should just make sure we
right,
get everything
Dave,
in by
you're so
September.
full of it. Okay, EAC October e-news agenda items, they are due in on the 14th, but I will be away, so I need everything by October 6th at 8 a.m. And that published date will be October 17th. Whenever possible, we have to work to accommodate Mara. She has many things on her schedule, so we never want to be the last ones handing information to her. We always want to be the first. It helps her get her job. Cindy, what other information would you like to add?
I became aware of a 2024 environmental education grant put out by the DEP. And this grant round opened August 1st. It closes November 15th. November. Well, I printed out the wrong one, but I know there's one for this year. These are mini grants of up to $5,000. And when I read the criteria, I thought that it might be worth bringing this to the attention of George Sheretz for the tree and watershed labeling in Gable Park. George wants to do a lot of tree identification of the individual trees, as well as some major interpretive signage. And I would like the EAC support to pass this on to him and suggest that he might be interested in applying for this. They're up to $5,000, which was a nice little amount to help cover educational stuff there. That's something we said we wanted to focus on more. It's awarded for local environmental education projects for level 1. That's the smaller amount. And awardees have included schools, nonprofits, municipalities, et cetera, et cetera. So I wanted to pass that on to George.
That sounds awesome. I think
Yes.
my only concern is, can we support George with it? Because we just can't, say, oh, George, make,
Well, it's something he's already going to be doing,
no, I meant the grant. Like
the
this-
grant
okay,
writing.
Okay,
Well, the plan is already there.
okay,
It's just like now we're asking someone else for more money.
perfect. All right.
Yeah.
As long as it's not adding to his burden, because I have to be very sensitive to committing anything to George without his approval. Okay, Janet, anything in a recap, filling up anything? No, thank you. Jeff, Dave, we are adjourned. Woohoo! Thank you, gentlemen.